I want to thank you. I look around this room and I see people from every age of my sister's life who have invested in her. My mother and father taught us friends will come and go, but family is forever. And in case any of you didn't know that my sister could be rebellious, I think she challenged that. She wanted to find out if what they were saying is true. So if you've known Debbie 10 years or more, raise your hand. Look at that. If you've known Debbie more than 20 years, raise your hand. If you knew Debbie more than 30 years, raise your hand. If you knew Debbie more than 40 years, raise your hand. Okay, look at that. So we can now officially say that my mom and dad were wrong. And you invested in my sister. Now, there's a lot of stories that you can tell each other about what happened when she was a young adult and when she was an adult. So I'm going to talk about the beginning and the end. And my sister was a firebrand when she was born, right from the very beginning. My first memory is this. I was in my front yard and some boys on bikes came by, and I think I said something I shouldn't have said. And they stopped and got off their bikes and they were going to pound me. They're about 3 or 4 years older than I was. And I was really intimidated. I would have ran to my house if there wasn't one boy right behind me. And my little sister, all of 4 years old, comes up and stands right in front of me, puts her hands on her hips and says, "You're not going to touch my big brother." And they left. And then I got mad at her because she's one-upped me. How did that happen? And then I've had, in my lifetime, I've had 3 black eyes. 2 came from Deb. And we had such a great experience. My parents were great folks. They really loved Debbie and I. Just like all of our parents, they didn't always make the right decisions, but their hearts were in the right place. But Christmas Eve was a real downer for Debbie and I, other than we came here to service. We always enjoyed our services here on Christmas Eve, but we go home, we were sent to bed, told we couldn't come out of our rooms, and Mom and Dad would throw a party for the neighborhood. And the whole purpose of the party originally was to assemble all the toys that needed to be assembling together so everyone could help each other. And then some of our friends came a little bit inebriated, you know, and eventually they turned out to do a white elephant gift thing, and somebody would get a xylophone, and whoever got the xylophone became the tradition. They had to sing Silver Bells. You know, it's still the only Christmas carol I hate. And every year, Debbie would sneak out of her room and come in mine, and we would commiserate together in my bedroom, which was right up against the wall to the living room where all the activity and noise was coming from. And we in our family didn't open presents until Sunday morning. Christmas morning. Thank you. Someone corrected me back there. Thank you. And we would just want this party to get over with so we could go to sleep, so we could get our presents in the morning. And I still remember the times where she would come in, and sometimes she'd come into my room. One night, she had, in the days of the big curlers, and I do mean big, she came running into the room screaming because she had a dream that there were snakes on the floor. And so she came running in, and it's, to this day, it's the only time I've ever seen her intimidated. And it was by that. And she was, from the very beginning, a really passionate person. the idol in her life, Tom, as you actually pointed to, was my father. No other man would ever live up to the expectations that she had because of who her dad was. And she wanted to emulate him. I think one of the reasons she went into sales was because she wanted to emulate my dad, who was a salesman. And there was an incredible love between them that was unique. I can remember so often Deb would have one of her experiences, and she would get with Dad, and they would talk for hours together. And that was true whether she lived in LA, Weehawken, New Jersey, Austin, Texas, and in the final days, if he were around, she would have been calling him from Nashville. But her humor, there hasn't been enough made about her humor. Her humor was actually a replication of Dad. And the wild clothes, Tom, I could just guess what kind of clothes he wore on the golf tournament. Bright. I was going to wear a bright red Hawaiian shirt in honor of my sister, then I thought I didn't want to embarrass my poor wife, so I didn't. But Deb would have done this. So Deb is devastated that Dad has died. And we have to go to the little chapel of the Chimes down in the Sunnyside to work through all the arrangements. And this is my sister. She's been grieving and crying. We're sitting there with this poor young guy who's probably been in this business 6 months. And she says, on the back of the bulletin, can we put a cartoon? Yeah, and so my sister really did love life, and she was adventuresome, far more than me. I was the conservative one. She was the one who was willing to risk and go places. But the other side, the calamities you talked about, she had a lot of betrayal in her life at many levels. And it's a gift to the stubbornness and determination of my sister that she never gave up on friendships. She never gave up on friendships. It was incredible. You know, one of the things that I think about my sister is this. I think God is very creative, and every one of us is unique. And I think in our own ways, every one of us is wacky. And unique and wacky could be a great description of Deb. But that wackiness represented her willingness to be who she was. And I didn't experience very many masks with my sister. When she was unhappy with me, I knew it. In fact, one time, Mom and Dad were gone. This is my last big story about youth. My mom and Dad were gone, and I used to tease her. I was not a very nice big brother to her, because I'd wait until no one was watching, and I'd come up right next to her, and I'd say, "Poor little itty bitty baby." and one time I did that. Mom and Dad weren't home, and she started chasing me around the house with a knife. And I ran outside, then she locked the doors, and then I got angry at her, and I broke a window to get in, which, you know, and I didn't think through this, because there she was with her knife. And I ran to my bedroom, and I closed the door and leaned against it, because I'm so big and she's so small. All of a sudden I heard a twing. And right there was this blade, came through the door. Yeah. So I'm kind of glad that we survived. Or maybe I should say I survived.